U.S. Presidents 1 to 5 by Sophie Yang and Zixuan Liu. Meet George Washington, the first President of the United States. Washington was born in Virginia on February 22, 1732. He was known to be a humble and brave man. 20-year-old Washington joined the Virginia Army and was later chosen to be the chief commander of the Continental Army. His excellent leadership helped the Americans defeat the British in the Revolutionary War. After the war, people elected George Washington as the first president of the United States. Everyone agreed that he would be the best person to lead America and its people. During his years as president, Washington chose to remain neutral by avoiding participation in foreign affairs. He knew that the U.S. wasn't in the right conditions to start another bloody war. He signed treaties with Great Britain, Spain, and Tripoli to establish friendly relationships with the other countries. Washington had a presidential cabinet, which was a group of trusted men who gave him advice. Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton were the most influential members of Washington's cabinet. Under Washington's leadership, North Carolina, Rhode Island, Vermont, Kentucky, and Tennessee joined the United States. The Bill of Rights was also passed and became the first 10 amendments of the U.S. Constitution. 65-year-old George Washington refused to serve a third term and resigned after serving 8 years as president, with John Adams as his vice president. He was worried that if he passed away in office, people would think being a president is a lifelong job. Washington died less than 3 years after he resigned and established a tradition that presidents can only serve 2 terms maximum. His humble reputation remains an inspiration to everyone. Fun fact: George Washington's face is on the United States $1 bill. This is John Adams. He was born on October 30th, 1735 in Massachusetts. After George Washington retired, he became the second president of the United States. John Adams was a brilliant man who attended Harvard College and then studied to become a lawyer. He had openly challenged Great Britain's power in America, criticizing the Stamp Act and Townshend Act, which taxed Americans for simple goods such as newspapers and tea. President John Adams was part of the Federalist Party, which valued a strong central government. Adams' presidency was focused on the delicate relationship between the United States and France. People were worried about the start of another war. In 1798, John Adams passed the Alien and Sedition Acts. Alien meant immigrant, and sedition meant speech against the government. These were a set of laws that blocked immigrants out of the United States and made talking against the Federalist Party illegal, which angered many Americans. It didn't give them the freedom of speech. As more people were against John Adams' new laws, he lost the next election. Vice President Thomas Jefferson became the next president. After retiring from being president, John Adams began exchanging letters with the current president, Thomas Jefferson, who was also his former rival. John Adams later died on July 4th, 1826, at 90 years old due to a sudden heart attack. Fun fact: John Adams was the first president to live in the White House. Say hello to Thomas Jefferson. He was born in Virginia on April 13, 1743. He was a gifted writer and one of the main writers of the Declaration of Independence. After George Washington became the first president, he chose Thomas Jefferson to be the Secretary of State. During the presidential election of 1800, Jefferson tied in votes with Aaron Burr, who was known for making enemies with other politicians and his extreme hunger for power. The tie was broken, and Jefferson ended up winning because people thought Aaron Burr was dangerous. President Thomas Jefferson was known for the Louisiana Purchase, where he bought the massive Louisiana territory from the French for a cheap price. This treaty doubled the size of the United States territory. Great Britain and France were at war. Both sides needed more fighters, so they captured American ships and took the merchants as soldiers. To solve this issue, Thomas Jefferson passed the Embargo Act, which banned trade with foreign countries. Though this act was supposed to prevent other countries from seizing American ships, it made the United States suffer because their economy depended on trading. Thomas Jefferson canceled the Embargo Act after 2 years. After serving 8 years as president, Jefferson stepped down from the office. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams had an interesting relationship. They were friends at first, but drifted apart due to their different beliefs. Later in life, the two started writing letters to each other. They ended up becoming friends again and died on the same day, July 4th, 1826, within hours of each other. Fun fact: Thomas Jefferson loved food. He helped popularize famous foods such as French fries and ice cream. This is James Madison. He was born on March 16, 1751 in Virginia. He was friends with Thomas Jefferson. Madison was very interested in the relationship between America and Britain, so he became a Virginia legislator as well as delegate. In May 1787, James Madison's Virginia Plan was presented to the Constitution Convention, a gathering of representatives to discuss the rules of the new country. The plan included a strong central government, which had 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. The executive branch was represented by the president. The legislative branch was controlled by the Congress. The judicial branch was operated by the Supreme Court justices. Madison's plan became the foundation of the U.S. Constitution, which gave him his nickname, Father of the Constitution. While James Madison was president, Britain captured American ships to prevent American trade with France. They kidnapped American seamen and forced them to join the British Navy. All of these events pressured Madison to declare war against Great Britain, which started the War of 1812. At the time, America was not ready for a war, so they lost to Britain on both land and sea. During the war, trade between Europe and the United States stopped, which ended up hurting American merchants. Due to this, Madison was criticized by many angry American citizens. In 1814, the United States and Great Britain signed the Treaty of Ghent in Europe, ending the War of 1812. However, the news didn't get back to America in time. The Battle of New Orleans happened after the peace treaty was signed, and was a victory for the Americans. Although the victory didn't affect the final outcome, it made Americans more confident in their country's strength. Andrew Jackson, who later became the 7th President of the United States, rose to fame as the war hero of the Battle of New Orleans. James Madison stepped down on March 14, 1817. 19 years later, on June 28, 1836, he died at age 85 of heart failure. Fun fact, standing at 5 feet 4 inches tall, James Madison was the shortest United States president. James Monroe was born on April 28, 1758, in Westmoreland County, Virginia. At 16 years old, Monroe went to the College of William and Mary. In 1783, he was chosen as the Virginia representative to the Congress of the Confederation. While he was in Congress, Monroe supported Madison writing the U.S. Constitution. But after it was completed, he thought that it gave the government too much power while not preserving individual rights. In 1808, Monroe ran for president but lost to James Madison. While Madison was president, he appointed Monroe as his Secretary of State. Monroe proved to be a big help during the War of 1812, and Madison pushed his followers to vote for Monroe during the 1816 election and helped Monroe win. While James Monroe was president, America was peaceful and growing quickly. It was also offering lots of new opportunities for its citizens. This was known as the Era of Good Feelings. Even though America was relatively peaceful during Monroe's time as president, he still faced many issues. One issue was America's fragile relationship with Spain. In order to fix this, Monroe bought Florida from Spain for $5 million. Another issue was that people were borrowing too much money from the bank, and the bank didn't have enough money. This was the Panic of 1819. Monroe also had to deal with slavery problems. When Missouri wanted to join the Union, the North wanted it to be a free state, while the South wanted it to be a slave state. To come to an agreement, James Monroe signed the Missouri Compromise. This allowed Missouri to join as a slave state and Maine to join as a free state. This made sure the number of slave and free states would stay equal. It also didn't allow any states to the north of the Great Plains to allow slavery. In 1823, Monroe delivered a message known as his Monroe Doctrine to the Congress that warned European countries not to interfere with the Western Hemisphere. It also promised that America wouldn't interfere with European conflicts. After retiring from the presidency, Monroe went back to Virginia, where he passed away at the age of 73 on July 4th, 1831, exactly 5 years after James Madison and Thomas Jefferson's deaths. Fun fact, James Monroe's daughter was married in the White House. It was the first wedding ever held in the White House. This is the end of U.S. Presidents 1 to 5.